well, do you want to go live yet?
I'm ready when
Yeah,
you guys
go
are.
go for it. 1 second.
Let me know when you're good on YouTube.
1 second, Greg. Sorry, I'm not getting the notice from YouTube yet. Okay, we're live. We're good.
Okay.
Recording in progress.
Welcome to the public portion of the Chatham Township Committee Workshop Meeting on September 12th, 2023. Can we all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. First off this evening, I'd like to reflect on September 11, 2001, a day that forever changed the course of our nation's history. We come together annually not only to commemorate the lives lost and the heroes who emerged that day, but also to acknowledge the enduring spirit of unity and resilience that defines us as a community and as a nation. One of the ways in which we pay tribute to the memory of 9/11 is through our memorial at Chatham Township Municipal Building. This memorial serves as a lasting symbol of our unwavering commitment to honor those who perished and to express our gratitude to the brave first responders who selflessly rushed to aid their fellow citizens in need. Today I want to extend a special acknowledgement to a dedicated member of our community, Mr. Steve Simon-Fay. Steve's unwavering commitment to preserving and enhancing the beauty of our 9/11 memorial is a testament to the kind of community engagement that makes Chatham Township so special. He has generously donated his time and expertise to provide landscaping services that not only has beautified the memorial, but have also shown us the power of community involvement. As we reflect on the events on September 11, 2001, let us take a moment of silence to recognize the importance of coming together as a community to support one another and to cherish the bonds that make Chatham Township such a strong and resilient place to call home. Thank you. May we always remember those we lost on that fateful day and honor their memory by continuing to work together to build a brighter future for our community and our nation. Furthermore, I want to make a quick acknowledgement of the significance of the month of September, as it is marked by numerous national and international celebrations dedicated to raising awareness and support for various meaningful causes. This month is a testament to the power of our collective efforts to make a difference in the world. In particular, I want to shine a spotlight on two causes that hold a special place in our hearts here in Chatham Township. September is designated as Suicide Awareness Month. Unfortunately, the annual Suicide Awareness Walk had to be canceled this past weekend, but nonetheless, it serves as a poignant reminder that mental health is a critical aspect of our well-being. It is an opportunity for us to continue destigmatizing mental health issues, providing resources, and showing compassion to those who may be struggling. Together, we can be the support system that someone needs, and together we can save lives. Additionally, September also marks Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, a cause that has touched my life, my family's life, and our community as a whole. My family has faced the challenges of childhood cancer, and I understand the profound impact it has not only on just the child, but also the loved ones. I want to express my empathy and support for all the families in our community who have been affected by this devastating disease. Let us come together to raise awareness, support research, and offer comfort to those facing this difficult journey. As we navigate the multiple awareness campaigns and causes that September brings, let us remember that our community is a source of strength, resilience, and compassion. Together, we can make a meaningful difference in the lives of our residents and the world at large. I encourage all of you to engage, volunteer, and contribute to these important causes in any way you can. By working together, we can create a brighter and more compassionate future for Chatham Township. Now on to the hearing of citizens. We don't do approval of agendas, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Hearing of citizens. Okay. Currently, the committee room is open to the public, and we look forward to having you join us. Additionally, this meeting is being made available for public participation remotely. If you're watching via Zoom, you may speak during the public comment session by following the Zoom instructions to raise your hand. Whether in person or online, when you're recognized to speak, please say your name, spell your last name, and give your street. As a reminder, all public comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Rather than use any of your time answering questions, we will wait until you finish speaking before responding. Each member of the public will be limited to 1 comment during the public comment period. Written comments submitted to the Township Clerk before 3 p.m. today will be read during the public comment sessions, and written comments are subject to the same guidelines as oral comments. Duplicative written comments may be summarized rather than read in full, according to the guidelines issued by the New Jersey Division of Local Government Services. Greg, was there any written comments?
None tonight.
Okay. I don't see anybody here. Is there anybody online?
We do not have any hands raised.
All right. Quickest hearing of citizens ever. I guess we will close the hearing of citizens and move straight to the reports. Let's start off with engineering.
Okay, just, do you want an intro, Z, or?
Yeah, so, one is a routine resolution, fairly routine, but it's special to Arbor Green. John will be providing a memo on that regarding the performance bond reduction. Anything you want to add on that?
Yeah, they have their CO, and there was deviations from the site plan, but they did go to the planning board to get those deviations approved, and so, they are in conformance with their amended site plan. So, the reduction of the bond would be appropriate.
The other one, Mayor, and committee that I think is large, I know we did have model ordinances on the agenda in the past. At that time, it was sort of, no real concrete deadline and how to move, but we've had some issues with FEMA that are requiring us to address some of these ordinances a little bit sooner. John?
Correct. There's actually, there's an issue with our current flood hazard area ordinance is dated, and so it does need to be updated. And so I am working with the DEP to review their model ordinance, applying it to Chatham. So it is something that we need to do in order to maintain compliance with FEMA, so that residents who are in the floodplain can get flood insurance. So it is a requirement for us to have this ordinance in place. So it's work in progress, but it is it's a model ordinance from the DEP. It does reflect, requirements of the DEP, requirements of FEMA, so it's not something that has a lot of latitude to change. We can always make things more stringent, most towns don't, but, we're gonna be making, both of those requirements.
John, when will we be able to have a draft for consideration?
It may be another month or two before, because right now it's in the hands of the DEP, and I'm waiting for their feedback, and so they haven't gotten back to me.
So this will probably be in October.
I would think.
End of October.
Yeah, but we will hopefully it'll be, not dragged towards the end of the year, or we have to kick it to the following year, but it is, it's out of my hands right now. I drafted it, I sent it to the DEP, they need to approve it. Once DEP approves it, then it goes to FEMA, they'll review and approve it, and then we look to adopt.
Isn't it typical though that if DEP updates their best practices manual, that then we have some time to review and then incorporate those ordinances? What's driving? It sounds like FEMA, a federal agency, is driving a local ordinance. That's what it sounds like to me. So how does that exactly happen?
Well, it's a requirement for the I can't think of the exact law with it. Basically, FEMA offers flood insurance to residents.
Yes.
To that. In order to for the municipality to be eligible for its residents to receive insurance, they have to have a flood hazard ordinance in place. And it essentially is an ordinance that dictates what people can do in the floodplain. You're supposed to have your utilities above the floodplain. You're supposed to have your first floor above the floodplain. It dictates how construction is supposed to be. And you can appreciate that FEMA is offering this insurance. They didn't want to offer insurance as something that's going to be, vulnerable to flooding. So in order to, there's requirements, and they're very standard requirements, that if someone's doing a substantial improvement or it's going to be a substantial damage, that you have to then reconstruct that home in accordance with the proper flood elevations, and so, you know, it's really a regulations for managing properties within the floodplain, and it does complement the flood insurance.
So then we just end up on a checklist that FEMA maintains that says, yes, these guys, they have a local ordinance that's in
Correct.
compliance?
Correct. It's, you know, FEMA doesn't normally go from town to town to check on it and do that, and so there was some recent changes with DEP, and we just happened to have a situation with a resident that was trying to get their property located out of the floodplain. And as part of that process of reviewing that application, you know, they flagged us as not having the, you know, current ordinance, and so, you know, and it's just something that needs to be updated.
Anything else on that? And John submitted his report for the month. Any questions or discussion on that?
Just
You wanna highlight?
two
Yeah.
more items on ordinances. I did bring up previously that the DEP, you know, with their amendment of the stormwater regulations, there are two additional ordinances that we are obligated to adopt. One is a tree removal ordinance, which I took our tree removal ordinance and forwarded it to them and said, does this comply? Because they did develop a model ordinance. We don't follow it exactly. The actual permit that was issued doesn't give a lot of guidance on what that ordinance is supposed to include. But DEP, you know, issued this model ordinance. So it is being reviewed by the DEP. So at the very least, I'll be able to give feedback that does our ordinance comply with their requirements or not. If it doesn't, then we do have to go start to review the tree ordinance, and I'll identify what it needs to be adjusted in order to meet their requirements.
We figured rather than just start changing it right now, and let's see
Yeah.
if what we have works and get their feedback first rather than start tweaking things.
So, and then the other ordinance is that they have started to regulate salt piles on private property, and so that was just another ordinance. The deadline, I believe, is next year, so we still have time before we have to do something, but just something that's gonna be on the radar soon.
When did you say the DEP model tree ordinance was coming out?
It's already they issued the draft ordinance within the last month, that they issued that. So, you know, I reviewed that, compared it to our ordinance, and there is some deviations. You know, we approach it differently regarding density. The DEP's ordinance focuses more on heavy replacement trees. So if you're removing a tree, you have to do a replacement. If you're using larger trees, you have to replace it with multiple smaller trees. It just, their emphasis is more on replacement versus, you know, regulation, and looking at density and looking at it from a practical standpoint of how many trees you can physically put on a property. The model ordinance does have a stipulation that if you can't physically put it on the property, you have to pay into a tree bank, and so that's how they handle it, you know, when you have excessive trees.
John, with regard to salt piles, is it fair to say that the concern would be related to runoff?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And should we anticipate any material costs to mitigate or be in compliance with that, with how we currently stack our salt?
Well, we've been subject to the DEP regulations for years,
Okay.
2004, 2005.
Yeah, he's
So
talking about private
we're in compliance.
property.
These is private
Oh,
properties.
so this is not, okay.
This is for private property, and we don't have many private properties
Yeah.
that store it. You know, I only know of one on Green Village Road, one of the contractors there, I think it's I don't know.
It's private residence and private operation.
It excludes residents, and it's very specific on the ordinance regarding, you know, residents having, you know, a 5-gallon pail or whatever they, you know, whatever. It's focusing on more larger commercial properties, because some larger commercial properties, like, you know, we don't have it in town regarding large office buildings, but a lot of them will have a salt pile at the end of their lot where they maintain it, and now DEP is regulating that now to make sure it's properly covered.
Charlie Brown's used to have a salt pile for salting their lot when it snowed.
Yeah, that was picked up on the,
Yeah, they can afford to. And Hickory doesn't.
I'm
It's all
not
salt,
aware,
right?
yeah, I'm not aware, but I don't recall seeing a salt pile.
Yeah.
Like I said, only one contractor that I know that has a, you know, maintains a salt pile, that he's gonna have to just come up with coverage and adjust it.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Just as far as.
Wait, before John leaves, I did have a follow-up question for John on his report. John, I sent you a question about, Dixie Dale, the sidewalk there.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at it, it's not very appealing, but also it, seems unsafe. There's no curbing. And I know you said that was not required by the planning board at the time. I'm just wondering if there's anything that can be done about that now, if we could request. Is that portion, I forget, is River Road in that area, is that county road? Because county road, you'd have to put in.
That's the township road, where, that portion of River Road is in the township. Curbing was discussed at the planning board, but the planning board did not require the developer to install curbing. That was just a decision of the planning board to keep it looking rural, looking, and, you know, there is a grass separation from the, from where the sidewalk is, so it does meet code when you look at DOT requirements. DOT does not mandate that you have to have a curb at that location. It's because a curb does not stop a car, you know, the curb, you know, you'd have to have a guide rail and you know, to actually stop a car. So it's what the planning board approved. I did reach out to them. I said, you know, that there has been some interest of installing curb, and I asked them if they would do it, and I just got silence so far, but.
They're trying to figure out how to spell no.
Stacy, I'm glad you brought that up, because that was, isn't there guidelines on where they can put it in the right of way? I mean, in some spots, it's like 18 inches from the road.
It was also, there were specific DEP requirements also that they had to do, and the curb can be, it's right on the road, it's not,
Yeah,
you
it's
can do that.
permissible?
It is permissible, yeah.
And
As long as it's wide enough to allow two people to walk by.
the planning board didn't specify construction, like concrete versus just.
They did,
throwing
they did not want
macadam.
concrete, they wanted macadam, they wanted a more rural looking walkway, they did not want concrete.
This was years ago.
Yeah, that's what, you know,
It was actually an upgrade from what was going to be
This
a
is
mulch
60.
trail.
yeah,
And
it
this was
was.
an
Dixie
upgrade.
Dale?
And
That
then,
was like 2019.
Yeah.
It'd look better if it was concrete.
The trail was gonna be internal.
5 years.
Sorry, the trail, I heard reference to the trail. The trail was an internal trail that they had offered to put in place for the town. And that got traded for the sidewalk by the planning board that was in place at the time.
Yeah, unfortunately, the planning board did discuss curbing, they did discuss the nature of the sidewalk, and you know, that's what the planning board ultimately approved. So it's difficult for us now to change that.
And it'll terminate, I forgot the name of the road where it comes down from Dixie Dale to wherever.
Hillside.
Oh, Hillside, yeah.
Hillside.
So it's gonna terminate there and not go to Snake Hill?
No, it goes up. No, it doesn't go, yeah, it terminates there.
It
Yeah,
goes up
they're
Hillside.
only obligated to do work in front of, that fronts their property. So the sidewalk goes along River Road, turns, goes up Hillside. They did, they're obligated to do an ADA ramp on the opposite side of Hillside, but that's where it would stop.
And they're not installing any crosswalks to go to the other side of the river?
They are.
So they're gonna have the ADA paths?
Correct. Where they stopped the path on River Road, on the borough side, there is gonna be a crosswalk at that road. And they already have the ramp there, they just didn't put this crosswalk in. At least they haven't done yet. The ramp is there.
Okay, thank you.
I just had a question about the parking lots for the parks and fields. Is there anything more that's happened, or what's the next step with that review? You had done some pictures and reviews there.
At this point, I did a brief memo to Z regarding, my initial observations of there. I was out at the opening day, with the fields, and just took notes regarding, the parking lot usage and some observations, and it hasn't extended beyond that.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank
Okay.
you.
All right.
John.
If you don't mind, just for a few minutes, if you hang out there just in case. That way.
Yep. Yep, no worries.
If it doesn't come up, then I'll let you know.
Okay.
Go for it.
So we'll start with the admin, Mayor, since nobody else is here on that. And while John's here, I just want to talk about Hickory Square paving. in case he's got something to opine on. The Hickory Square paving, Hickory Square, the shopping plaza, sent in a request. They put in a zoning application. They want to pave their parking lot. All great, no problem. They got approved, but obviously with the condition that they have to do the work within the noise ordinance. They were not happy with that restriction. I told them, listen, you know, construction official, because it's a private property project, not public, that's not a John or Rich field. If it had to do with, you know, our utilities or road, that's them. If it's private property construction, that's Jack, our construction official. And, you know, the ordinance specifies when we can make exceptions to that, and I think it really comes down to, let's say, there's a gas, you know, there's a gas line, there's a major, you know, something causing a serious safety consideration on that property. Other than that, I turn to you, you know, to make that.
What's the question, they wanna
exception.
do it in the middle of the night
They wanna
because
do it in
the
the middle of
store's
the night.
closed? No way.
Correct. Correct.
I mean, milling is a destructive process.
I've already
Well,
told them
that's
no,
what I was
you know, I've told them no
the charts.
repeatedly that I don't have the authority. Two, I don't see that their case, what they're pleading is the safety, you know, but they're saying public health and safety. I've went out there, you know, actually Ed saw me out in the parking lot of ShopRite. I wasn't shopping, I was counting cars just to see what their occupancy is like. You know, they're about 50 to 60% occupancy, I would say, on a regular basis over there, 50 to 60% occupancy. Again, they said they've done this once before though. I think when they repaved it, I think maybe 10 years ago, they did do it at night. I wanted to check with you. I told them that it would be, if it was voted on, it would be voted on at the 26th, but this is our meeting for discussion, so let me know what you want to do. We won't put it on for the agenda for a vote if there's not enough support to go there.
My attitude is, it is surrounded by apartments, and I don't see the compelling reason to make an exception. I'm not seeing the health aspects, and I think they're gonna have to just partition off the shopping center and pave one area at a time.
Same, I mean, we don't need to make a decision right now, but certainly my inclination would be to have them comply with the ordinance.
No, I think that they should be able to do this overnight. I mean, we have so few businesses in town. This is one of the pro-business things we can do. The residents don't want to be shopping around this. I agree with Mike's comments that milling is very destructive. These are large vehicles, you know, things happen in construction. That's a very busy parking lot. I would say, you know, especially since it has precedence that they've done it before this way, absolutely.
What are we talking about time-wise and stuff? Like I said, my initial reaction is to enforce ordinances, but this is like one of these classic type of things.
Right.
In a town like this, I frankly like to sort of talk to my neighbors, see what people think about it, you know, like, but
That's why I'm bringing it up tonight rather than just
Yeah,
for the first time
but-
on the 26th. And, you know, I could argue either way. This is, at the end of the day, I think you're the ones who are going to be fielding a lot of the complaints in either direction. And I don't want to.
Their physical building, the ShopRite itself acts as a barrier to really the residential, which is where we're talking about is Hickory Tree. So you're talking about for noise, maybe it's that back parking lot.
No, I'm talking about all the apartments behind it.
I know, but the back sort of loading and delivering area is the only thing that really abuts those apartments. The main parking lot itself is on Shunpike, really in a commercial zone. I mean, until 522 goes on, there's not really any residential around it. If you consider their buildings sort of acting as a bit of a wall, if you will, to noise and light that they'll be using for the overnight work.
If it was.
I mean,
maybe that's a, I mean, again, we're putting the cart before the horse, but maybe that's something that could be arranged, like that parking/storage area behind in between ShopRite and the apartment buildings would be which nobody parks back there, by the way, would be something that should be done during the day, and maybe the front.
I'll say that back part, it was near full occupancy every time I went during the day.
It is because that's where the people.
Employees.
Yeah,
park
the
back
employees
there.
are parking
And
there, and then there's the
plenty of
trucks, the
room.
loading trucks, yeah. I would say if it's happening at night, they probably could get it done in about 2 to 3 days,
Yeah,
right? If it was during the day, sectioning it off probably will take a full week. Again, depending on weather, maybe a little bit more than that, but I would say, John, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it was like 13 or plus years ago, and I believe they did do it, at night. But at that time, they did go to the planning board for, amending they were in front of the board with a variance application associated with doing improvements. So all the residents were aware of new work being done, and I think it was discussed at the planning board that they were gonna do it at night. So they gave, the public was then aware through that process. So, perhaps if they're doing it now, you may wanna put in a requirement that they have to notify all the residents, give them, ample notice that they're aware it's going to happen, so that, they're not shocked by, or even limit the time, at 2 a.m. You can't go beyond that, or 1 a.m.
Or they,
I know I would be livid. That's my
Or the
attitude.
Milford
We
is
figured it
like-
out of like a major road, we figured it out on Southern Boulevard.
I think, if I think about it, to me, they haven't demonstrated a public safety or.
That's what I was pushing them on, was if that's what you're saying.
Having said that,
Yeah.
right, I'm open to considering, accommodations that are within reason. So if they want to, shut it off at a certain hour, so it's not going all night long, or they wanna somehow mill during the day, I don't know, I'm open to seeing if they can be a little more creative as opposed to asking, providing really kind of a
100%.
veneer
I mean, if you look at
argument that this
my-
is going to present public safety challenges.
Yeah, if you look at my,
happens all day long.
you look at my email correspondence with them, I was
all day long.
pushing back to get that, I did say, give me, justify it. Not because I wanted, it's not for me to say yes or no, I just enforce the ordinances,
But if you
and it's a
don't
default is a no. But I said, if you want consideration, you've gotta tell me what this is and give me a plan. If you're gonna do it during the day, what's it gonna look like? Tell me how, and there was a little bit of indignation and obstinance and kind of
You'll see
pompousness
lights,
on
too.
their
Going
part.
back, single
Yeah.
use grocery bags
Yeah, because you can stage these back haulers right on
Well,
site,
that's
right?
a-
Every time they pull that thing in reverse, it's the. Right?
I mean, literally every time
The gate slap a lot of times
Yeah.
when they're doing the.
I mean,
asphalt.
like literally every single time we pave a road, every single time I get flooded of emails of resident complaints. It's like they didn't know, even though we noticed them, even though we put it out press releases, even we do, and that's just, our private roads, and we figure it out, and I talk to them, and I'm like, okay, I'm sorry. I can't possibly imagine the type of complaints we're gonna get if this happens at night, at 2 o'clock in the morning, at whatever time. I'm
Using the
just-
roads, right? So
it
if
doesn't
the-
matter.
If the
It's a-
roads happened at night,
Okay,
you get
I
fewer
let you
complaints.
speak. I don't understand why you always feel the need to talk over me. Like, I'm just saying, is that the amount of complaints I think will be exponential when people are trying to sleep. You already get complaints, I get complaints about construction occurring at Charlie Brown's.
Correct,
If it's a minute past the hours, that they're allowed to do. If it's a second on a weekend, I'm getting emails. I think you're
We
getting
got
emails
no,
from
you're
you
right.
too.
We did get an email,
Like
and
a
they were
ton.
allowed to work that day, but they
Yeah.
still were like, why are they working?
Why are they working?
So what are we talking about here? I
Well,
mean,
do
I
you
think-
want to
I think
maintain
there's
the
a
ordinance, or do you want me to do, essentially say to them?
Do we wanna make an exception for
Or
them?
do you want to make an
Well,
exception?
well,
What do you
well,
want me to do?
Blanket exception, that's what I'm saying, what are we talking about here? It seems to me like there's somewhat of a consensus about some consideration beyond like strict enforcement of the ordinance, but.
I'm not gonna tell you that.
But, we'd have to know exactly what that means.
They should give you a plan as to what type of material they're gonna use. Are they gonna use lights? How many days it's gonna take? The machines they're gonna use, are they big? I think they should probably.
I mean, I don't know the size of any of that's really gonna make a difference, but, I could tell them if you were to work at night.
Well, I mean, they
I'm
must have
kinda-
proposed something, they just said they wanted to be freed from the ordinance?
Yes,
Which
that-
means-
that's what,
Yeah,
that was the
no,
request.
that's not happening.
That was the
Because
request.
that was what was
You know.
approved by the zoning board. The zoning board said, by all means, pave your stuff, but you have to follow the ordinances that are in place.
Yeah.
So then they were coming to us, asking to make an exception, saying, well, even though the zoning board said that,
Zoning
can you
officer.
the zoning officer
Yeah.
said that, can you guys make an exception for us because, we wanna be nice?
Yeah, and
I'm not seeing a reason.
Well,
what-
asking for those kids are reasonable, because any.
Maybe you
paving
wanna do it
project-
till 10 PM or
Yeah,
11
any
Well, that's on,
PM.
that's on you then,
Big
I would
difference
say,
than all night long.
yeah, right now the
Really,
default
any-
is a no, so if you wanna make an exception, then say, hey, you tell me the perimeter, we're willing to take it to, allow it to 11 o'clock at night, or 12 o'clock at, whatever it is, rather than overnight, if that's the case. Right now, they're just sort of asking for a blanket, I don't think
And I
that
think
they're
you should
gonna-
tell them, the committee said no, but if you're up to a blanket, just waiver of the
Right.
ordinance. But if you wanna propose something, don't
Okay.
consider it, no promises.
Yeah, cause if
The
you,
default is
even if
yours.
you put really, stringent time constraints, any paving project is just contingent upon how many trucks you put on the job. Because a paver moves quick, it's just how many trucks you have, and so.
Right,
have
so
all-
they
have
wanna
all-
save money by
Correct.
doing it with one truck at 3 in the morning.
Correct, so, have a line, have that trucks lined up so that they knock it out.
I think that, sorry, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes, sorry.
The reality is that parking lot gets packed and the impact to paving during the day is on the residents. It's on the residents and it's on the small businesses there, because if people can't park to do what they wanna do, they're not gonna go there, they're gonna go elsewhere, which will impact the businesses. So, I agree with Mark in terms of being business friendly, that it would be nice to work with them. I also understand, they gotta figure out some way to do this. So whether it's they start, because they could start at 5 PM, things quiet down. If they're running from 5 to 12, if they're telling us how many trucks they're bringing in, if they gotta give us more information. We can go back and say we're willing to work with them, we need more information.
One other thing I would say is, there are giant tractor trailers that back up back there all the time, right? So there is a certain tolerance for noise maybe that those particular neighbors have that maybe other areas wouldn't. That's a thought.
Well,
They also
they
have
can
garbage
certainly
compactors.
pave the alleyway during the day, because that's not impacting, that's only impacting deliveries. You just schedule deliveries off those days, and that doesn't impact the residents. So I would think that area, we say, no, don't, you do that during the day, but the
But
front,
we don't have Lake Street, residents, right? I mean, that would be a little far away to be.
Yeah, it's more
I'm
like
just-
Hickory. Hickory is right there. It's,
I think Lake Street residents would not like milling at midnight.
I get emails from
Yeah.
them constantly.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I'm gonna try and summarize this. I'll go back to them and say, there may be some leeway in terms of the hours. A blanket exception is not permitted. Give me a plan on exactly how late you wanna go while minimizing, to the extent possible, the
And
overnight
also
disruption.
explain their safety, they're complaining, they're saying that it's a safety issue.
Mayor, that's a nonsense argument.
It's
They're just saying,
about
I was
cost.
like, on the phone and by multiple emails, I've gone back and
multiple
forth with
emails,
them.
they just not
They're
responding.
they're not addressing it, cause they know there's
Then-
no,
then, I mean,
it's
how
not
do we
safety or
sit
health.
there and make an exception for them and, we follow our ordinance? I mean, they have to bend a little bit and
I would
just,
say from the safety
try.
perspective,
They're asking
Yeah,
for
they're
something
asking.
that's wholly convenient for them.
Look, from a
right, but
safety
there's,
perspective.
there's no,
we will-
there's no, like.
And Mark's
Yeah.
point is valid too,
They
though,
will.
you know, I'm a consumer who uses that lot, and I wouldn't want it to be backed up all day long either, so, there's some aspect to that
Yeah.
too, but I think.
What I gave them was, and I don't know, you may have seen an email, New Providence is an Acme shopping center. That got paved in the middle of the day. I went there to pick up lunch coincidentally the week that they were making that request, and they had it sectioned off, and they were doing paving during the day, and that's what I told, the management company. I said, I don't see how in one town, they're closing down a parking lot in the middle of the day, or sectioning it off and doing it, and you guys are saying it's impossible. They didn't really have a response to that.
Again, it could be just limited the area of what's in front of the store is the driveway, because that's something you may wanna do at night, because that's difficult to do with any residence. Or you do that area, but the actual parking lot itself, do it during the day, that you can segment off. So limit the amount of work that they need to do for safety of that, for people that are not walking over a milled surface, you have the hot asphalt, you do that roadway, and then parking lot, do it during the day.
Okay, I will, I think I have summarized and understood
Report back.
everybody's concerns, so, okay, I think that was it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
We do have a number of other, sort of routine resolutions, a DPW employee, longtime DPW employee is retiring, 40+ years. 43 years to be exact, so I think we might wanna recognize him by some way, but, we've got that going on.
Should we do that at the next meeting?
Yeah, we're gonna do the resolution then, we can coordinate an actual recognition, maybe
I
either
can
at
give
that
him a
meeting.
certificate or something.
Yeah, I'll see when he's available, if he's
Okay.
interested. And then we've got an indemnity hold harmless agreement that's gonna be with the PBA and possibly another entity. The PBA wants to do a food truck festival, over by the Colony Pool area. So, we would need an agreement with them to allow them to do that. I've talked to them about, zoning it correctly. They are amenable to, and, I think it works out better if we do a street closure of, a partial street closure of School Avenue, sort of like we did with National Night Out for safety reasons. So that would all be part and parcel. Any concerns or thoughts on that?
That's good.
Okay. The WPC foreman position was advertised, and we had an applicant, internal applicant, so we would be making an appointment of that foreman position. Local Emergency Management Councils and Ordinance, Pete has been working with our OEM coordinator, the chief and myself on drafting that ordinance. I got a draft from him today, but essentially we don't have an ordinance on our books that creates this Local Emergency Management Council, which is a state requirement dealing with OEMs and then we also have our fire official is resigning. He's accepted full-time employment. He's been part-time here. He's accepted full-time employment elsewhere. He provided us a resignation some time ago, but he's been trying to make it work by shifting his schedule, and it's just no longer logistically possible for him, so he's out. Any questions or discussion on any of those? Okay. Fire officials, the equivalent also what's known as a fire marshal. They're responsible for fire prevention. This is not a construction position. That's more of dealing with if there's generators, food trucks using generators, torching of asphalt, things like that. Clerk?
First off, under ordinances and resolutions, I sent a memo about the potential for having limo license late fees for renewals. I hope that the memo pretty much speaks for itself. Does anyone have any questions on that, on the idea?
Greg, you mentioned there's three limo services in town. Where are they? Are they based out of the mall? Where are they based?
They're all based out of residential properties. It's people that own a vehicle that they store in their garage and operate as at-home businesses. And we have three of them. One of them predates my employment here, and the other two have been active for at least 5 years, up to 10 years. And what brought this to mind was they're all supposed to renew promptly in January, but one of them waited until August to renew, and I don't have any enforcement mechanism to compel them to renew, unless if they get pulled over by law enforcement. So I thought perhaps a late fee would be an incentive for them to renew in a more timely manner.
Anybody have an opinion on this? One way or another? Anybody in favor or not in favor?
It's a fairly simple ordinance. I already have one drafted. I can put it on the next agenda if there's consensus to have such a late fee.
Okay, Greg, you need 3 votes. Anybody? Got 1,
Sure.
2, 3. All right, you got it.
Okay. Any questions on the clerk's report?
No.
Okay. Construction.
Those unruly cat owners are still refusing to get licenses, I see. Step
On that
up.
though, Greg and I have been discussing, and Greg's been exploring online registration for animals. So we're
Great.
Yeah.
something in the process.
Digitize it and put it on auto renewal.
Trying.
99%.
Construction and building department, the report came in yesterday. I apologize for the delay on that, but any questions there?
I'm sorry, what was it?
Construction report. I will add also, I've been working with different departments slowly as I have some time to revamp their forms. So the zoning form, the zoning permit application was just redone. It's a fillable PDF, a lot cleaner and simpler. It's been condensed over what we had before. Engineering, we discussed. Finance, we had that report probably in the next month or two. More like we'll be starting the process in October, the budget process for next year.
Sounds good.
for finance, I just had a question, it's not a new question, it's, just about interest in, I had asked, in a meeting about it, I sent an email before about it, and I sent a follow-up after our last workshop, that was our last extended workshop like this. You know, interest income is up like 5x, right? It's 5x over budget, which is great. And I was just, I imagine that interest income is coming just on rising interest rates, but not from changing investments. And I would like to just confirm that.
Okay.
Well, number one. And number two, that was the source of my question. And then number two is, there are some alternative investments that we're allowed, and some of them that are, you know, I think municipal bonds, there are a couple things, and a lot of times, I know in business, like, if you invest in something, the best idea to get more, to do better is to do more of what's going better, right? And this is an area that's going better, so we should do more of this. We should look into this some more, because if it's just naturally rising, over last year by so much, there's probably some things we can do to tweak it up.
Yep, I will, I'll try and get some more information for you on that. Police, chief submitted his report. No questions, concerns there? Okay.
He's not here anyway.
No, I review all these with them beforehand too, to try and answer as much as I can, so if there's something, I'm happy to try and do it, otherwise.
I could reach out to the chief, but I did have one question on that, which is, I didn't get a chance to review the report till this afternoon, but if I read the report correctly, it seemed like there was like a 400% increase in the number of traffic tickets between August of '22 and August of '23. Is there a
Rationale
specific
for that?
explanation for that?
That I will find out for you. I don't want to misspeak on that one, so I'll get the answer.
You know something, Greg?
No, we're just gonna make a joke about post-COVID, more people on the road.
Yeah, I remember having that conversation in 2021, but it doesn't make that much sense between '22 and '23, I don't think.
And also, if you could follow up, see, just to see if there's any trends or any spots that are particularly concerning. You know, people are speeding at certain intersections, whether or not we need to think about having something there, you know,
Yeah.
and I don't know what something is.
I don't have this confirmed from the chief, but I would imagine the task force, for motor vehicles theft has something to do with that. But the chief has said in general, when we've asked him this question before, and I don't know if I'm not accusing you of a faulty memory or anything, but just refreshing it, he has said that it's just a natural rise, and it may look more like 2019, but it wouldn't surprise me too, you know, with all the license plate readers.
Yeah, it's surprising. It just,
Well,
no,
the
I've definitely seen it up
license
before.
plate
That just seemed huge, but
they only go backwards, so they have to have physically, like, they don't use them for anything, for speeding or anything related by that. It's not, they have to go back, in time and check, and they do that for car thefts.
I do think it has something to do with the fact that 4 years ago, most of the population of Township was gone in between 8 in the morning and 7 o'clock at night. Now there's
Yeah.
people buzzing around town all day, like
Yeah.
working from home or whatever.
Yeah, I think a lot more people are working from home, and I think a lot of businesses
That's-
slowly
I'll
returning to
follow
work.
the chief too.
And you have more officers,
Yeah.
you know, the younger
I'll just
officers.
email them, I'll get an answer for
Yeah.
everybody.
Alright, next one?
Public Works, we've got a Gov Deals resolution on there. Still kind of trying to not wait until one big lump and get things moving as much as possible. So we've got some things on here to get rid of.
I think this was a parts cleaner.
Yep, there's gonna be actually maybe adding one more thing on there too, some COVID relics, pandemic relic, type equipment around here. Okay, and then also we may have, either for this one or the following one, phones. I've been, working with a new phone provider. We're gonna be moving to a whole new VoIP system. So our existing phones are, not compatible with that. They're actually not compatible with really any other system other than the old system that we have here. So those are, gonna end up getting auctioned off at some point too. Recreation, turf contract. So the turf field, is well beyond its useful life. It is a safety concern as well. We have obtained quotes from, I think the agenda packet only included one quote. We're getting quotes from 2 other vendors. Actually, we did get one from another one, and we're trying to get one more. But the range of the estimates for the turf field are anywhere from about $500,000 to $800,000. So I hope to have a recommendation with a resolution for the next meeting. We do have the funds available for that, and the feedback from, all the athletic groups is that we need to update it, so.
They indicated specifically that it was a safety issue for the children. That's why it seems to be a top priority.
Yeah, this is
right
at
now.
Shunpike, to clarify, the turf at
Yeah.
Shunpike, and the finance committee, we had it in the capital plan, which, we envisioned it for early 2024, but, there seems to be a demand to have it sooner before the season starts next year, and so that's why I wanna try and bump up the timeline and get a contract, in place sooner, so that way they can mobilize, order the equipment, and get it going as quickly as possible. And then,
They need their field ready to go, I think they indicated May, or March
I believe
first.
they said March.
Yeah, March first, they said, which means we have to get going.
I think it was 2010 that field was put in.
Yeah, I mean, they indicated back over a year ago, they said their number one issue with anything was replacing that Shunpike turf. They indicated that to me multiple times. I've received a lot of emails about this as well, and then they've also indicated more recently that it's now becoming so bad that it's a real safety concern for kids. So that changes priorities.
I guess I'm trying to understand how we went from proactive planning to all of a sudden having a safety issue in there. Because you talked about this in the budget cycle, and so just this past spring, and the plan was, okay, we know we need to redo Shunpike, let's plan for it. So, I mean, we gotta get it done, I'm fine with it, just wondering, what we're missing. I vaguely recall, what the record was Larry supposed to put together kind of a schedule of, useful life and kind of a plan, because that would help going forward so we can anticipate and plan for these things in the future.
I would say, sorry, Committeewoman, I don't think the intention is to indicate that it's kind of out of cycle, because Larry did mention this to me last year, but we were already in the season of play, and so it was, in my mind, okay, we could put it into the 2024, because we're not gonna get the project started in the beginning of the year in midsummer. We just didn't have, I think, the action plan, and also by the time we finished the budget and the capital plan, it was already midsummer. So what I had it in the capital plan for was 2024, but like I said, we could either start it, and the thought was we would start it in January or February, but based on feedback with the sports, they want to have something in place by March. So if we were to do it in 2024, then it wouldn't be till the end of 2024 or over the summer. And so, being that we could do it now, it's not like we don't have to shift anything or change our plans on how we were gonna do it, rather than wait till January, we just enter into a contract sooner.
That's fine. So, like I said, I would just ask that we, proceed with the plan for coming up with that, analysis of the fields, useful life, when we anticipate having to replace them. Because that was discussed, when we first brought on the rec director.
Agreed, yes. Anything else on that?
Just to echo what Stacy said, one will follow the other, so we might as well have a schedule for.
Yeah,
when
actually,
we're
this is the only
expecting
turf
this
field
thing.
though that we have, so this is really our biggest, biggest ticket expense right now of all of our fields. Other than that, the rest of the stuff has been ongoing. We've been doing that, whether it's, lights at Nash, or whether it's, the Colony tennis courts, or, the netting elsewhere. I know we've been meeting with the clubs. I know Larry has. We just had an appreciation dinner with the coaches, hear their feedback of what they've got on the horizon. It seems like they're all happy with how things are going and what Larry is, how Larry is responding to them, and the feedback he's given to me, and then DPW getting that work done. So I think we're in a good place. And sort of dovetailing off the conversation we had earlier, but the proposals and engineering spec sheets are all going to go and be reviewed by John as well, so that way you know, we make sure that we're building this turf field to good specs.
We'll have a contract.
We will have a contract. And they will be under state co-ops as well. You know, so far, the two that have responded, one of them's under the Bergen County Co-op, which we're a member of, and the other one's part of the Educational Services Commission Co-op, which we are also a member of. Any other questions on rec? No?
I have a question, and some comments about Colony Pool. So the Colony Pool, the membership was, down about 4.5% from the report, and overall membership revenue was down. And that's despite us passing the fee increase, and that's kind of what I had indicated earlier this year, that this was gonna be the result. Now, this doesn't include all revenue from Colony Pool. This is just membership revenue is what I'm guessing from the numbers that I'm reviewing there. Do you know if that's the case or not?
If that's the total revenue versus just membership revenue?
Yeah.
Off the top of my head, no, I don't. I could get that for
I mean,
you.
because okay, well, it would follow.
That's how I read it.
Yeah, it would follow. And so, overall revenue, I think, I would like to see that. I would also like to see just a little bit more of a robust report, because we have guest passes, which are significant. That's our number 2 revenue category. We have in town and out of town, like just a breakdown of who's actually using it. These are things that are easily available in the system, gate system.
Yeah, we'll have that. I mean, this is the August report, so the pool season hadn't ended yet. This is something I did mid-year with Larry already and looked at, and we looked at when we did revise the ordinance. So certainly, now that the pool season is over, the September report next month will include all of that.
Okay, and I'm just gonna add on, I'm looking forward to see a more robust report with more categories, but what has happened, unfortunately, at Colony is that the tennis program was canceled because of the swimming lessons, group lessons, almost no participation, and the swim team, about almost a 40% shrink, I would say. So, what happens is, and I would also probably say that family memberships, the number of memberships may be similar, but the number of family memberships has probably gone down. And that's due to many factors, and I'll comment on that later, at another time. But I would just say that the system all works together. So when we do talk about this next report, a more robust report, we need to get a plan in place, or we need to talk about membership fees. We need to talk about the programming, so that it's ready to go by February or so. Because people plan their summers for their families in the winter. And so when we're kind of like, hey, we're still talking about it, squabbling about it in March, April, it's not a benefit to the club, or to its use.
Just so I'm clear, so what are you suggesting in that case?
Just that we need a more fulsome report, and it sounds like that's in the works. And then we need to put it on as an agenda item to actually discuss it. Now, the machinations of like passing actual fees and things we probably can't do, right, because of the nature of resolutions. They have to be in the same year. But we need to be preparing so that we have this the information and things in order to do a successful launch into the next year's season earlier in the year. We can't be setting fees, in my estimation, can't be setting fees super late. Can't come up with promotions. Can't off the hip, work on last year's requests for promotions and use them in this year. I mean, we just can't do those things.
I think the promotions, though, have been consistent year over year in terms of when they've gone out.
And that's a problem. In any business, that's a problem. You can't keep consistent.
Well, but I'm saying in terms of timing, right? So the timing's been consistent. It's always been around the same time frame. So, attributing that to earlier promotions when the year before and the year before, the mail catalog went out at the same time frame. The marketing of it is all around the same time frame. Certainly can move it earlier, but I don't know that people are thinking about joining the pool in March.
Well, that's what you said, this year, and my suggestion is that we talk about this at another time, but I think that point of view is what leads to a decline in family memberships.
Okay. Anything else on rec?
Nope.
And then, last two, collector and assessor reports. Anything else there? Okay. Mayor, that's it.
All right, so then we will have our final hearing of citizens. Anybody want to speak? Ed, you want to speak? Anybody on Zoom?
No hands raised.
All right, well then I go ahead and close the hearing of citizens, and we have no executive session. So we will, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
See you all in 2 weeks.
Yes. Which one?
Recording stopped.
That committee.
I didn't fully review
Okay.
it. I'll
I sent
try
it
and
to
take a look at it